Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Apartment Department, a podcast for multifamily marketers by multifamily marketers. My name is Ann Baum, and I am currently the marketing director at Town Properties, which is a property management company located in Cincinnati, Ohio. We have 16,000 units. About 30% of those are owned and 70% of those are managed. My favorite thing right now and always is data. So you'll hear me talking a lot about data and also back to basics. That is my specialty as a marketer, is really focusing on the basics and building a foundation in order to do pretty extraordinary things. And so that's actually what we're going to be talking about in this episode, is kind of what we're doing right now and what we're focused on for next year. So with that, I'll go ahead and let my co-host Chris introduce himself.
Hi, Ann. I'm Chris Johnson. I'm a data-driven marketing professional with 17 years in the industry. I started in Southern California, and now I'm currently working for AG Living in Ashland Green in Dallas, Texas. Marketing and data are two things I've been passionate about my entire career, and it's been a pleasure to be able to mix the two. This is a great industry, as we all know, and it's really exciting to be here with you to start our podcast and share the ideas that we've had. And that'll lead me into why we started the apartment department. So Ann and I, a couple of years ago, were both using the same software platform, and they asked if I could give a recommendation. Of course, I was willing to, because the product was great. And Ann and I started talking, and we talked about the product for about 5 minutes. And then we realized that the product's great, but let's talk about marketing and let's talk shop. The conversation was so great, we ended up continuing the conversation about once a month over this 2-year span, just to talk about what's going on in our industry, what's working for me, what's working for her, and how we can collaborate together, even in different product classes. Sometimes in the same product class, even what different softwares that we're using or testing and the different technologies that we're trying. It's been a really great relationship, and we decided, hey, why not tell the rest of the world about it? Because I think some people will get a lot of benefit out of the conversations that we've had. I think we're going to keep it pretty casual as we go along, and we'll just have some fun with it. And I'll drop it back to you, Ann.
Okay. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I think we talk about once a month for about 2 years now. And I think it's fascinating because every time you and I talk, we're basically kind of working on the same thing without even knowing. We've had conversations about marketing sources and personnel and team structure and kind of the landscape in general. And so I've always really appreciated that. I think one of my favorite things that you taught me was a couple months ago about just how to do unit level marketing. And that was something that I'd been thinking about, and you were able to give me a bunch of kind of wonderful ideas. And so, but that's always what surprises me. It's like we always start into our conversations and it's like, oh yeah, I'm working on that too. And so I'm excited to share our conversations with each other, with everyone else, and then also eventually have guests and bring them on and just really share our passion for marketing in the multifamily industry. So I think today we wanted to talk about, because it's December, we really wanted to talk about kind of how we're wrapping up the year, what we're working on right now, and maybe do a little reflection, something that we're really proud of that we each did this year that helped, move our respective companies forward from a marketing perspective. So I'll ask you, how are you wrapping up the year? What are you working on right now?
This has been an exciting year. Ashland Green has been active, so we picked up 3 properties this year, which is great if you're following our industry. That hasn't been the case for a lot of our competitors, especially this year. I feel fortunate that we've been able to pick up some new properties and do some new branding and marketing, which is always fun. But at the end of the year, I think, we all hate this word, but we're in budgets. We're finalizing budgets. I'm excited for 2024. I like where my budget's going. I have a year under my belt at Ashland Green, and so I have a feeling of what I think will work and what won't. That's all based on the KPIs that I set up that didn't really exist when I got there. Something that we've really aligned on are our KPIs and what we're actually tracking and what we're trying to track for. I don't think either of us just take the approach that we look at the website traffic and that's it. I think we actually look at how prospects are interacting with us. I think we look at our activity every week. Are we getting denials? Are we getting cancellations based on where we're marketing? And is it all working together? So now I'm really reflecting on a year worth of data using software programs plus my own reports to look at what I'm going to do next year. We're also migrating our websites. So we finished the year with migrating 20 sites at the end of this year, which, as you know, is a big project.
I hear websites and I think GA4 and implementing GA4 and then trying to, do you use a partner for analytics or do you do that?
do. So
Yeah.
I am using our current software partner, RealPage, to do our SEO, and that was part of our switchover and migration. We're going to use RealPage and a bunch of their products. I will say I really like their websites. They look great. We have a lot of SEO content. They do a lot of in links within the website. Our URLs are stronger. So I'm really excited to see where they take us next year and see if we get more visibility just when people are searching us.
That's exciting. Are you guys using, someone was just telling me, you've had success with blogs before, right? Yeah, okay. So I'm sure that there's a blog component on your new websites too.
I basically use the FAQ as a replacement for the blog. We can dive into more on why I like to use that in a later episode when we talk more about SEO in general. I think when you're looking at our industry, content is king and blogs do help. You just have to make sure your information is correct. And I think you're going to get into some of the SEO and blogging that you're doing for 2024. But how do you correct information? It really makes a big difference. And we all know that we only have one chance to make a good first impression. I have to tell you, this website looks great and it feels good and they're fast. I'm not as concerned about our prospects leaving when they hit our website. We put a lot of work into this project this year, getting new photos. I'm very fortunate I have somebody in-house who can take them and edit them, but making sure we have photos of all of our communities and amenities as we do value add with our product type. We have a ton of renovations and they make a big difference and they look great. So we want to make sure our photos are up and they're looking great. We're checking all of our amenities. We're making sure our floor plans are correct. We're doing all the stuff that matters on your website. And this is the time to do that type of reevaluation when you're launching new websites. And if you're already doing a bunch of work around it, you're just adding a little bit more time to make sure everything is great. And we're really taking our time to do our quality control. I think this is a huge piece of it. My team and I have probably spent 16 hours each on these websites, 70 to 100 comments per website. And as you know, they're not that big.
That's really cool. And I think this is another example of how we're kind of working on the same thing and not even knowing it because right now we're very much focused on like the back to basics of how we're marketing our properties. We're getting into a tough spot, both from a seasonality standpoint and then also from an occupancy standpoint and from an expected rent standpoint. And so we have to make sure that we're representing our properties properly. And we kind of did a website audit recently and we noticed that some of our properties didn't have floor plans. For example, we had like a floor plan coming soon image that we kind of used, and that's not only on your website, but then it's feeding out to your ILS listings, and there wasn't any reason for us to have that. There's no reason for us not to have floor plans. We had photos of unstaged units. There's so many AI tools right now that let you virtually stage photos. There was absolutely no reason for us to have unstaged photos on our website. We're really going through that process now to make sure not only our websites are clean, but that also where we're paying to be represented online, that we're putting our best foot forward.
It's just so important to have a great website in our industry more than any others. As you know, I'm the head of marketing and I have to wear a couple of hats. And on the capital side, people are still using desktop, which is really interesting. But in our world, when we're looking at prospects, it's still mobile. They want to do everything online. They want to buy online. They want to look at pictures online. They want to even rent sight unseen sometimes. But you're going to be left in the dust in 2025 because technology is changing so quick. So now is the time to make sure that your team is going back to the basics.
Yep, I agree with you. And that's an interesting point too. Like our corporate website, about 50% of traffic right now is desktop, 50% mobile. But then when you look at our property websites, it's 70% mobile, 30% desktop. And so you're right, you have to put together two different experiences for folks there. The other thing we're focused on right now too, one of my team members just went to OpTech and there was a huge focus on the type of amenities that renters want. And so we're really going back to our amenities pages and making sure we use Yardi, we use Rent Cafe, and they have built-in amenities in their back end. And so we're making sure that we have the proper built-in amenities checked, because those again are going to feed out to ILSs and to other marketing sources. And then we're looking at amenities that we know people want, but maybe are kind of newer, like the work from home spaces and stuff. And we're really trying to identify if we have those amenities. So that's something that I'm excited about. And I think it's in line with what we talk about a lot, is that very much back to basics. Like going through and doing an amenity audit is, sometimes people want really big ideas, and that's not a really big idea on the surface, but the impact of it, I personally think, is going to be huge.
It is big, and because everything is about consistency, people just want to get the right information. You're setting your teams up for failure. I tell my team all the time, our job is to make sure we're getting the information out there, but it has to be correct. So whatever we're doing, we have to make sure it's right, because the last thing we want to do is spend a lot of money to bring a prospect in, whether it's phone call, web, or in person, and we have the wrong information out there. And I'll use a special as an example. What if we have the wrong special online, or we don't have a special at all, so they don't come to us and they go to our neighbor? Whatever the information is, we want to set our teams up for success. And if we have the wrong information, now they're having a conversation about the wrong info instead of just being able to sell a prospect who came and found us online. So when you set up the data and you have KPIs and you start looking at it month over month, even if they didn't exist before, all of a sudden you start to see the trends, and it's fun. It makes marketing fun because now you're making informed decisions.
Yep, I agree with you. And I think, that leads into something that we did this year that I'm really proud of, is that we put together a shared KPI dashboard between marketing and operations. Because what we were running into is that we were driving traffic, or not driving, whatever the case may be, but marketing is the very beginning of the funnel. And then once that prospect gets to the property and they contact them, that process then transfers over to operations. And so we felt like there was some siloing between the two departments. And so we started sitting down with our regional vice presidents and area managers on a monthly basis, looking property by property and looking at a shared KPI dashboard, so that together as a team, we were making decisions both from a marketing and operations standpoint that would have an overall positive impact on occupancy. And so it's been great. We've seen huge collaboration increases. We've seen occupancy increases, which is the best thing. So that's something I'm really proud of, is being able to implement those.
So were they surprised when you walked in with all this data? I find a lot of the times I walk in and they look at me and they say, "What? Why does the marketing person have all this data? We weren't ready for that." So how did your team react when you were prepared and ready to go?
That's kind of been my MO in general, is like spitting stats and kind of coming in with data. But I think the data that I was coming to the table with previously was limited, and it was only marketing, and it was conversion rates and cost per lease. So very marketing centric. And so I think expanding the conversation into data points like trends and market rent versus benchmark and conversion rates and renewal rates, and looking at those all together, I don't think they were surprised. I think it was refreshing. Like, oh, this makes sense. Like we should always have been talking about it this way.
It just makes the conversation go so much better. And it's not even pointing fingers. You have the conversation and say, here's what marketing can do, given X. Here's what operations can do, given Y. And then everybody's rowing in the same direction. It makes it a lot easier to get results.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen that, like, we're driving you more traffic than the benchmark, but your rent is $200 above your competition. There's not enough traffic in the world to get people to convert at that rent level. And then vice versa, we've seen, hey, this traffic's converting great. Your rent levels seem reasonable. Okay, now it's our turn to drive you more traffic so you can get up to that occupancy level that you want to be at.
This is an interesting conversation, and I have this all the time with our asset management. They can hit budget and performance all day long at higher rents, but they'll be 85% occupied because it just depends on what the rest of the market is doing with rent. We all want to drive rents, but you also have to pay attention to see what your competitors are doing in these markets. Some markets are very price sensitive, and if you go up 25 or $50, that's all it takes to kill your leasing velocity.
Yep. And it changes how your visibility too. When people are filtering, again, from different marketing sources, people will even search with kind of rent ranges in mind. And so it impacts your ability to even be seen in some cases. And so right away, that's kind of cutting down the amount of traffic that you could even get in the first place. It's interesting. I think the only opportunity, and this is totally out of the blue, but think the opportunity to you once you start having a really strong reputation as a property or then also kind of as a management company, I think you do have an opportunity to have rents at a little bit higher rate and not have it be a detriment to you. But that's probably a different conversation for a
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
day.
which we can talk about at a later time. But I would just say it's great. It sounds like you're on the right track and you've had a great year and you're doing the work to make the start of next year a good one. We talk about this all the time. We need to be set to go January 1st because all of a sudden, as soon as the next year rolls around, the faucet turns back on and people are ready to start leasing again.
And
No
we want
sleep
to,
for marketing.
what are you most proud of this year? The dashboard, do you think?
The dashboard, I think. And then I have a strong team too. I'm really proud of that. We're ready for anything. We restructured a little bit, and that was good. And yeah, I think the dashboard I'm most proud of because I love collaborating. When I got hired at Town, I took like a personality test, and it's called like the predictive index, and it says I'm a
Sure.
promoter. And one of the qualities of that is collaboration. Like I love working with people who want to collaborate and do the right thing and move the company forward. And so being able to realize that through that shared KPI dashboard it was really special.
Yeah, I do think that's special. I am proud of what I accomplished this year. When I first started, I did a review contest that absolutely crushed it. We got 215 five-star reviews in 1 month. We just took our properties to another level compared to our comps. And these are real reviews. All we did was ask people to do it because we knew we had happy residents. Our construction team does a really good job with our renovations, and we take care of our residents when we can. So I'm really proud of the reviews, and I'm proud of the live budget that I created, which I've shared with you. It makes a huge difference when the executives or asset management is asking where marketing is spending their dollars, and you can just pull it up and say, here's the live budget, and here are the changes. So to be able to do just-in-time marketing for me is huge. I've never been a set it and leave it marketing professional, but in this sense, I'm able to move the budget around in real time and make a difference month over month on the properties that need it, or pull back budgets on ones that don't. It really enhances our marketing program.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I agree with you. I'm excited for you too. I think, and that's kind of a multifamily marketer's dream too, right? Like having a live budget, being able to be fluid with seasonality, being able to be fluid with how I think renters are changing. We just met with Zillow this morning and they were sharing some data with us that like 30% of renters are basically signing within 30 days of first contacting a property. And then 70% is like within the next month. And so I think that's a huge shift from maybe the kind of 60-day window that people talk about a lot. And so you're going to be able to do great things with that live budget and kind of react to changing renter expectations. So I'm excited to hear how that continues into next year. What's the one new thing that you're going to do next year?
Next year, it's all about data. And I'm looking at my budgets and I'm deciding on which direction we're going to go. And we'll leave a little bit about that on the next episode. But I'm going to open up my budget next year a little bit to try some other technologies that I think are important. One of the major technologies that I still love is emailing. We really need to get a good email program so that we can look at the data and see what works and what doesn't. This year, I brought on a new technology called Knock AI, which means 100% of our prospect phone calls are now being answered, no matter what time of day. And we've gotten 0 complaints, which is pretty incredible. So next year for me, it's all about the tech stack and bringing it to the next level and having multiple campaigns. We need to have drip campaigns. We need to be able to hit speed to lead and communicate with our prospects and meet their technology needs on whatever channel they're talking to us, whether that's chat, email, phone. We need to make sure our tech stack supports it.
Yep, I love that too. I think email is kind of constantly people are like, no one uses email anymore, but it's almost like too good of an opportunity because people check their email every single day. But then a lot of, I would say, like marketers who are focused on more modern tactics think email's dead. And so it's a perfect opportunity to swoop in and take advantage of, like I said, a place that people are spending time online every single day.
Email isn't dead. Email works. If people are interested in what you're emailing them and they're already a warm lead and you know they've been there and they've been to your property and they're looking for an apartment, they're absolutely going to open an email that offers them a special that we've created just for them. I'm lucky. I get to use HubSpot on the other side of our business, and it's a great program. But there's some really good programs in our industry that we can use too that give us the ability to be more personalized. And the more personal you can be, the better results you're going to get.
Yep, no, that's gonna be awesome. I'm excited about that.
What do you have going on?
I think my big thing is we're implementing basically a kind of marketing results dashboard. And right now, in order to pull performance by source, I have to basically put together a spreadsheet that has an average, kind of like our monthly contract costs for each of our sources. And then I have to pull another report that has our leads and move-ins. And then I have to do formulas. And then I basically I have this thing that tells me, what the conversion rate for each source is, what it costs me per lease. And it's hard. It takes like an hour to answer a property's question about how their sources are performing. So we're implementing a reporting tool that's going to be able to instantly tell us that information and then also give us additional insight into like how quickly our sources are going from lead to lease, for example, so that we can allocate budget more appropriately. It will give us some return on ad spend data. Right now we used first source attribution, and it will give us the opportunity to look at a couple different attribution scenarios. So I'm really, really excited about that.
I'm still a believer in first source. I think it's important to know how people are finding you the first time that they're looking. But I also look at the journey because, as you know, it's definitely not going to be one source. It's going to be 5. Your website's probably going to be the final converter at the end of the day. But it's important to know where their second stop and their last stop is to make sure that you have the journey locked in and you're communicating with your prospects in the right way. But yes, I love that. And I love the return on spend. That's such an important number. And not just for us in the marketing department. I think we would be remiss without saying one of the first things that we loved in our first conversation, and I'll just mention it now because you mentioned the return on ad spend. I think it's important to remember that without marketing, we don't have prospects. We're a revenue generator. We are not a cost. We are the ones that bring in the prospects who become residents. We're so important to the operational side, but we're such a small part of it. But that's what makes our industry so fun, is that we have so much that goes into it. And we have so many people working in unison to make this whole thing work.
And I think strategically, I think technically anyone can sign a marketing contract, right? But it's thinking about it from a strategic standpoint, what sources are working, what aren't. Again, kind of that speed to lead and speed to lease that you talked about. And so we did a study this year, I guess, for lack of a better term, and really honing in on how the marketing department is responsible, what our place is in the financial story of an apartment. And it really is about decreasing vacancy and driving occupancy. And when I looked at it from an operating expense standpoint, marketing only accounted for 3% of the overall operating expenses. That was really eye-opening to me because I feel like we are constantly asked to like decrease, expenses. But when you think about it from an NOI standpoint, the expense in our case is low, but the opportunity for revenue is high. And so you're right. Showing that return on ad spend and really focusing on how can marketing and operations work together to drive occupancy, it changes the view of marketing from a cost center to a revenue driver. And that is our job. That's what we're here to do.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, I look forward to next year and doing all these episodes with you, and we'll dive into some more of our marketing avenues. Maybe we'll give away some of our secret sauce and what we're doing and what we do that makes us a little bit different from other marketers out there that we've spoken to. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, this has been fun, and I can't wait to, you keep telling me, oh, all these people want to be our guests, so I can't wait. Not only will be you and I sharing great stuff, but eventually we'll bring on some folks that we know and respect, and just keep the conversation going. So thank you for agreeing to be a part of this. I think it's gonna be really cool.
Yeah, awesome.
All right. Well, until next time, this is the Apartment Department, and we'll talk to everyone soon.